So I'm here to take you through my retail predictions for 2020. A little bit about me, very quickly, I promise first. I've been in the retail industry for about 20 years now, and I started off working for a high street retailer, looking after their mail order catalogue. So we were doing omnichannel back in the early 2000s, and my God, is it easier now. And I ended up getting a bit addicted to the online stuff, did 2 Christmases with them, then became head of e-commerce for a group of mail order businesses, turned that into an agency, hated working in an agency, but ran it for 10 years anyway. And now I am lucky enough to be able to spend my time thinking, speaking, and writing about what makes e-commerce businesses successful, which is what I get to do with all of you guys tonight. This roller coaster, strangely enough, represents the last 2 years in e-commerce. If I was stood here this time last year, I suspect we wouldn't have been allowed to be here anyway, but I can't remember what the dates were. But if I'd have said, 2021's been really weird and crazy, 2021 is going to be even worse than 2020. You wouldn't have believed me. But it is, and it has been. My God, has it been another crazy year. So trying to work out what my predictions are for this year, there's an awful lot of stuff I could throw at you. But Andre gave me the challenge of cutting it down to 5. I'm giving you 6. And I tried to focus in on a couple of things to make it useful for you. The first thing I wanted to focus in on was, if I'm stood here in 12 months' time telling you who the winners of 2020 were, what would they have mastered in order to achieve that? So that's kind of been my, trying to answer this, trying to predict December 2022, what would the winners have done? And I've tried to come up with the 5, 6 things that have achieved that. And then the other things I tried to bring into this is, for me, there's kind of 4 big things which we have to pay attention to next year. One is there's more competition in e-commerce. We're just having a conversation about how a lot of wholesalers have been creating their own e-commerce businesses and going direct. We've had new people just entering because it would be fun. We've got people from overseas entering. There's a lot more competition, which is I think it's good for the industry as a whole. I think we've grown up over the last 2 years because the competitions have reached those kind of levels. The second thing is that the cookie apocalypse has happened. So between those 2 things, ads are a lot less ROI effective than they were. So how do we tackle that? What else do we need to do? We've got consumers feeling, despite the fact there are so many of them right now on Oxford Street, we can hear them through the windows, but they are anxious. They're not quite sure what to do anymore. There's all this stuff coming at them, not just COVID, but net zero and Black Lives Matter and all the rest of it. They're trying to work out, how do I actually function? What is the right thing to do? So, and they're looking for that greater emotional connection because of it all. Because we feel more anxious, we want more connection. And I think that was the 4th. If I've forgotten one, I'll bring it back to you later. So that's the kind of the big piece. Technology, that was number 4. Hey. Forgive me, it's almost my bedtime. So technology was the 4th one, because the way in the last kind of 5 years, technology has evolved to make what we can do so much easier in this space, so much more accessible to do things which back in 2003 we dreamed of doing as retailers. It has to factor into this. So I'm trying to flag up things which is relatively straightforward and possible for any business to do right now. So my roller coaster. So let's get into number 1. Number 1 is zero-party data, by which I mean, because people are bandying this around a lot and not everyone is willing to ask, what do you actually mean? So what do I mean by zero-party data? First-party data is the data that you grab from your customers in your own ecosystem. So it's things like their email address, what they do on your website. Zero-party data is the data they give you in return for something else. So for example, it's when you do a pop-up that says, do you like green clothes or blue clothes? Awful example. And you say green clothes or blue clothes, and tick the box. That's a bit of zero-party data you've captured that you then use to personalize their relationship with you. That your email send, your SMS send, your push marketing, potentially even your postal activity and what's happening on the website. You can even use this data as you collect it to influence your ad strategies around your ad platforms using custom audiences. So I think zero-party data is clearly a solution to the issues we have with the cookie apocalypse, because it is that let's go gather the data that we own that's not dependent on someone else. It also, though, gives us a huge opportunity to create a stronger connection with our customers, because it's all well and good collecting this data, but if you're not using it, there really is no point. So it starts with capturing it, then it's using it to personalize the activity, and then it's optimizing what you're learning. So zero-party data must be on all e-commerce strategies for next year. I did an interview with Ben Parr from Octane AI that's going live on Keep Optimizing next month, and they are all about zero-party data. And he's saying that the most successful customers they work with are the ones that keep it incredibly simple. So they don't create a 20-part questionnaire survey and then create all this data and try to do it. They ask one or two questions and then personalize the journey off the back of that and actually use that data, learn, see what's working, what isn't, and then develop the survey onwards. They've actually now released a tool which is a pop-up that only allows you to ask one question. Because people will, I'm sure we've all seen it, those whiteboards of beauty that sit in an office with all these lines all over them. It was the email strategy that's going to take 2 years to build. Step one. So keep it simple, get started, start optimizing the data. And to give you an example, I think this is the best one I've found, which is Hair Story, an American brand. Anyone familiar with Hair Story? Okay, Hair Story are the new version of shampoo, basically. So rather than using chemicals, we should use Hair Story, we should stop blow drying. It's a very short story. So you see their ads, you go to their website and you say, I don't know, do I need new wash? Do I need new wash rich? Do I need hair balm? Do I need whatever the heat product? I don't know what I need. So they have a survey which is, tell us your hair story, so they can then work out what products work for you. So it's like, how long is your hair? Is your hair dry? What's your ethnicity? Is it curly? Is it straight? All these kind of questions. Which one stops that paralysis of, I'm bought into your video, I have no idea what I'm supposed to buy, therefore improving the conversion rate, because obviously you go through the survey and then you get your personalized product selection, which is not entirely personalized, but it is as a result of the surveys. And then they use the information that you've given them to personalize the journey afterwards as well. So they give you that product selection. So as well as being a great marketing method, a great way of accelerating new customer acquisition, it's also a way of improving the conversion rate at the very beginning of the process and of personalising the experience on the website to right at the moment that you capture the data. Number 2, continuing our chat about customer experience. This is kind of the prediction where I've amalgamated a lot of stuff, okay? So be warned, this one's a bit busy. 59% of consumers in the US in a recent survey said that they spend most of their money in non-traditional channels when they are online shopping rather than boring websites. By non-traditional channels, I mean social media, I mean WhatsApp, I mean in-game purchases, live stream commerce, these weird and wonderful new platforms that for those of you who are new in the industry are probably normal. For me, who's been around for nearly 20 years, are weird and wonderful. And on top of that, we now seem to have marketplaces popping up everywhere. Lots of nodding heads in the audience. In the last couple of weeks, I've spoken to one called Enable All, which is about the purple pound, which is for disabled people. I've spoken to one called Schwab, which is about selling second-hand clothes and the brand getting a kickback. I've spoken to one about pretty vegan clothes and various others. They've all got these niches, they're all well funded, and they are going to make traction because consumers want it to be easier. If I can go to a website that's all about vegan clothing and I want to take my vegan journey further, I can shop confidently without having to worry as I go around the M&S website trying to work out what is and what isn't vegan. So the consumers are going to be liking these. But it makes our life as retailers somewhat difficult because we suddenly have all these platforms where we've got to provide a great customer experience. which means you've got to have the right data there, so the product information is good. You've also got to have the right integration, so as once someone buys, you've actually got the product, you can deliver it, and so forth. So that means that the tech stack becomes quite important here as well. Because whilst 59% of US consumers, and the number is very similar to the UK, but I only have the US number in my head, so if anyone wants the UK numbers, let me know and I'll dig them out for you. But the tech stack is all important in getting this right, because 59% want the non-traditional channels, but the mix of those channels is not yet set in stone. So if you want to embrace them, if your customers are embracing this, you're going to be adding channels, removing them, adding channels, testing them, which means we can't afford to have a 6-week build span on the integration for TikTok. We need to have a system which enables us to quickly deploy and remove this channel mix as it evolves, as new tech gets added into the mix. And with companies like PayPal buying up Pinterest, this space is only going to accelerate, which means you have to have the tech stack that makes you flexible. We saw in 2020, the winners in 2020 were the businesses that had a tech stack that worked, that enabled them to be flexible and adapt. You can't be on an old tech stack anymore. Most businesses have upgraded that in 2021. In 2022, it's really going to see a huge difference between those who are able to adapt quickly and those who aren't. So I started off with great customer experience where the customer is, and I got onto tech stack. I told you it was going to be a big one. Third is partnerships and trust-based marketing. So this is a bit of a softer one, as you can tell from the name. But I think as a result of the cookie apocalypse, as a result of consumers wanting more connections, as a result of the competition, marketers are having to find cleverer ways to get in front of the right consumers. We can't just chuck a load of money at Facebook ads and hope we find the right people. We can't do that anymore. So, and it also comes at a time where the industries like influencer marketing and affiliate marketing have evolved to the point where they're ready to embrace this too. And the great thing about when you're building partnerships as part of your marketing is that the trust passes across as well. So not only are you tapping into an audience that's relevant, that's not defined by cookies that no longer exist, you're also getting some of the trust the person already has with that. So I think partnerships are going to be a huge part of people's marketing plans going forwards. The difficult thing about them, of course, is a lot of marketing teams have got people in them who are ready to run ads. And that's a very different skill set from building partnerships. So I think we're going to see some move in marketing teams in order to encompass this. I wanted to show you a few examples of these to really iterate what I mean. Now this is an influencer, it's Tash Haynes, working with a jewellery brand, Larissa Loden. So she's promoting their jewellery, they're getting some sales, she's getting something in return. But they've actually gone to the point, they've optimised this relationship. So Larissa Loden has worked with a lot of influencers, she's worked out those who work best, who are the best fit with her brand, and then she's created a range with them. That is only going to see the sales skyrocket. And it really iterates. I guess there's kind of 3 points to making partnerships work. The first one is finding the right people to partner with, which is about having a similar customer audience. The second is about creating a deal that works for everyone. So whether Tash got paid for the collaboration and the design process, or whether she got paid a commission on every sale, or she only gets paid for the traffic she drives, then have worked out something that works for both of them. Or maybe she just gets a lot of free jewellery. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't need the money. And then the third thing is you optimise. So you don't go, well, we found a partner, my work here is done. Rather, we find a range of partners and we see what works for them and we continue that conversation. The next one is Flavorly Beer doing a partnership with another brand. Because it's not just about influencer and affiliate relationships, it's also about relationships with your customers, relationships with other brands, relationships with the press. There's not enough, in my opinion, of partnerships going on between actual e-commerce businesses. This is an order confirmation one, so I've completed the order for the beer. They're now offering me some coffee, because the beer's going to put me to sleep and the coffee's going to wake me up again. I love this particular combination. Now, when you receive your Flavorly box, you also get an insert from Packed Coffee. So it reiterates it, and I suspect they're doing more things together as well. So when you find one of those, you can really expand it, especially when it's with another retailer. And then we have partnership ads on Facebook. So you'll see in these, we've got both Marie Claire UK and Superdry. So there's a bit of functionality in the back end of Ad Manager where you can allow another business access to various assets. So back with Tasha and Larissa, so Larissa could take this content, if she's agreed it with Tash, and she could create this as an ad managed from Larissa's Facebook ad account, the brand's Facebook ad account, but the ad's going out to Tash Haynes' audience and with Tash Haynes at the top. Hugely powerful way to extend an influencer post for months, and a great way of getting around the cookie issue because you're not at the mercy of the algorithm to define your audience. You've got an audience of people who are already following Tash Haynes. This example is a press example. And talking of Facebook, creative is everything. But no, everybody knows what that image represents. I interviewed a guy yesterday who runs one of the top Facebook ad agencies in the world, who gave me his 3 biggest tips for succeeding with Facebook. It's not entirely related to this, but this is to do with Facebook. Would anybody like me to share those tips with you?
Yes.
Yes?
Oh,
Okay. So the first one, because I thought it was super simple, I was expecting something far more complex, but this is what's working right now. The first one is to create, to not try and gather audiences from off the platform, to gather audiences on the platform. So rather than using a cookie on your website to create a remarketing audience, create a brand video, put it out there in front of a massive audience like the whole of the UK, and then take the people who watch that video and use that as your audience to send your more sales driving messages to. It's a tactic that's been around for a while, but which has really come into its own. Now we can't rely on the algorithm to bring us the audience we want. Secondly, is something he called DABA, Dynamic Ads Big Audience, which is taking a product feed into your Facebook account, allowing Facebook to create the dynamic ads and then putting it out again in front of the whole of the UK. Seeing some amazing results with that. So very little tweaking of the targeting, just let what's left of the algorithm do its thing. Because the biggest impact of the cookie issue is that the algorithm has less data. So the wider you make your selection, the more data it's got to work with again. If you go Cornwall, it's not going to work very well. You've got to go whole of the UK. And then the third one was that when it comes to the conversion tracking, there's no great solution right now. Getting the Facebook Ads API, so you're getting better data, but Facebook say that still means you're losing 15% of it. So also look on Google Analytics, and then if you're big enough and want to spend the money, look on other more complex tools, but no one's yet nailed the solving Facebook Analytics issue yet. So anyway, there you go. Hot off the press, not going out to the podcast audience until January. Facebook ad tips. So, creative is everything. This is something which we've been seeing anyway, even before the cookie apocalypse came, which is, I think we're going to see a move in our ads teams from those who are really good at targeting, kind of the pure Google ads people, of which I am one, away from them and into more of the creative space. It's those who can create the compelling stories, the compelling content, the really engagement-grabbing ads who are the ones who are going to survive on the ad networks and who are going to get the activity, because that's what's going to be making the difference. We were already seeing it with the cookie apocalypse, it will become even more of a thing. So if you're not yet hiring great copywriters, great videographers, now is the time. The other thing to be doing is to be getting user-generated content. So when I talk about partnerships already, most people in the world of partnerships are also getting their influencers, their affiliates, to give them the content. So they create the post, and that post can be used by the brand. It's why a lot of people are putting into their loyalty programs. Also, you get points for talking about us on social. So they've got that content that you can then repurpose into your ad activity, into your email marketing, onto your website, and so forth. It goes through all your activity. So I think when we get to the end of 2022, the winners will have mastered really creative advertising, not just on Facebook and Google, but across the rest of the platforms as well. And the other thing to do is to use TikTok creatives to create content, to bring that and use it as Facebook ads. So not use it on TikTok ads, but use it on Facebook ads, which is really, really good. So creative is everything. Bonus one. One of the reasons creative is everything is because consumers want that emotional engagement. They want to hear more. They don't just want, here's a cool product, buy it. They want the story behind the product. They want to know why other people love the product, how people are using the product. They're also very interested in these kind of emotional connection movements, causes. So we've got connection, we've got net zero, and we've got causes here. Movement marketing is something we're going to hear a lot more of as we go through the next 6-12 months. I know it's scary, going, how do we do something that fits in with that? Well, we've seen a lot of businesses just in the last week or so getting on board with Green Friday and other areas. It doesn't have to be something big. It can be just a small cause, but something which resonates with your brand and will resonate with your customers, helps you pull them to you rather than pull them to someone else. So some examples on this one. Neves Bees, tiny business in Oxfordshire. They have some bees, they make products from it like lip balm, and they give a free wildflower seeds, beautifully cheap, easy, free gift product. They give that with every order. Now, if you don't care about bees, that's not going to work on you. But if you do care about bees, you're their target customer. So they want you to be pulled in by that offer. Works really, really well for them. Really low cost incentive for them to grow their business. And a really simple, non-scary way of getting fully on board with one cause. This is a Masher tea company. They're based in Devon. They are all about energy, hence the name Kineta. So their main way of recruiting people is a 12-week free course on how to improve your energy levels. Now, we're not saying take more caffeine or drink this product from Holland & Barrett or Boots. We're saying we're going to teach you lots of ways to improve your energy levels, which just also happen to include matcha tea. But that's what they talk about. That's what they're all about. So it pulls people in, and it's going to bring in customers who aren't going, oh, that looks like a funky way to drink caffeine. Or, read it in Jamie Oliver's latest book as an ingredient. They're bringing in people who are going to be involved and love it and want to keep consuming the tea for many months and years to come. This is one of my favourites. This is a company called Gerald of Norwich. Anyone heard of Gerald of Norwich? Got 1, 2, 3, cool. They are a department store in Norwich, okay? And they just do some really awesome marketing. Everyone who has physical retail should be following what Gerald are up to and following Neil Park on LinkedIn to see what they're up to, because he shares so much of it on the front end. He's on my top wish list of people to have on the podcast. This is a big event they did a couple of months ago, maybe only a month ago, where they created space for local artisans. So that we're going to buy local, we're going to support small business. They brought them in and created a section of the department store which is all about those small businesses. And they created these amazing videos. So this is all their little providers saying, hey, great to be in Gerald's. And that's the video campaign they use, which they put across various other places. Really, really great example of how to get involved with the movement. Very, very entirely, because they brought entire suppliers on as well. And then back to Larissa Loden, really simple one. This is their Do Good bracelets range, which starts off with feelings. They have Black Lives Matter ones and so forth. So just simply sloganing up some products. So don't be scared of it. Give it a go, but tread carefully. And there's an amazing book by Chip Walker called Activate Brand Power. I had him on the podcast. He's a kind of like a madman from New York. And he's written the most amazing book on how to safely and successfully bring your marketing into these causes so as you don't get a backlash and so as it works well for you and for everyone else. And then Mintel have identified 3 consumer trends for 2022, one of which is ethics check. And I think this is the best example of an ethics check I've seen. This is a nail varnish party business in America. Really cool story of going from offline to online during COVID. And this is just on their About Us page. It's not front and centre screened on their homepage that they're vegan, that they're cruelty-free, that they're all these things. But for those who want to just double check that this business fits with their mindset, with their ethics, It's just there, really clearly outlined on the About Us page. So if you're scared by it, just start with this. This is the easy way in, but a really important way in. Number 5, net zero. Kind of had to end with net zero. Bearing in mind we are in one of the worst industries. We're top 5 bad industry for net zero. You can't avoid it because fundamentally we have to consume less in order to save the planet, which is a bit of a problem when your job is to sell more. But there are some amazing stories out there of businesses helping on this journey, and we as an industry have a huge opportunity to help retrain consumers into buying better. Not stopping buying, but buying better. And it's something which we're going to be exploring a lot next year because I'm just fascinated by it. But that's not really why I put it up here. I put it up here because you're all going to be feeling, all retailers are going to feel a lot of pressure around this over the coming year. You're going to get pressure from your customers, you're going to get pressure from your teams, you're going to get pressure from your suppliers, you're going to get pressure from the people you supply. Tesco have put it out there that they want all their suppliers to have a net zero policy in place by 2023, which I personally think is too weak, but they have put it out there. I think it should be end of 2022, but it's at least something. We're also going to be getting pressure from government. So the reason Tesco have done that is because the government is putting pressure on the big businesses, but that will drift out to the small businesses. So that's kind of the stick side of it. The positive side of it is that it's about reducing waste and reducing consumption of carbon, which also means we're probably spending less because the cost of doing all these things has come down dramatically in recent years. So we're now at a place where actually a lot of the things you might change in your business, consumers are going to love, and they're also going to cost you less money. Simplest example I can think of is removing returns labels from your parcels. I mean, it's a simple one, but if you're one of the businesses near us in Oxford Street, that is a huge amount of paper, print, manpower, postage volume and weight not being sent around the country. Huge. And that's going to save you money and it's going to help the planet. And these baby steps are what we need to start making and need to start doing. What we also need to do is we need to not greenwash. There's a lot being said about that, so I'm not going to dwell on that. But we also need to not green hush, which is when we're doing something but we're not telling anyone. Because one of the best things we can do is to shout about what we're doing to change other people's behaviour and to educate other people and to bring them along the journey with us. So please don't green hush. And even if all you've managed to do is remove the paper from your parcels, tell your customers about it. Say, look, we know it's just a baby step, but we have removed the paper and this will save X. We'd love to hear what else we can do. We're working on other things. Just tell people what you're up to. One of the coolest examples I've seen of this is a business called Green and Blue, who are very ethical. They're all about bees and they're bee certified and all the rest of it. But they sent this email out over the summer, which is just basically saying, we've changed our bank account because we try and be good, but you all pointed out that our finance was awful. So we've changed it. And then if you really want to go for it, then be like BAM, who are a brilliant business. Fast growth, fashion business, founded on ethical, sustainable, whatever you want to call it, principles, who have really gone for it and are very clear on what they've done and how they do it. It's through the whole of their DNA, so they're one to aspire to. So, what do I think the winners, when we get to the end of 2022, will have mastered? I think they'll have mastered zero-party data. They'll be collecting it, using it, and optimizing it. I think they'll be selling where the customer wants to buy and be creating great customer experience in that space. I think they'll be investing in partnership marketing in all its various shapes and sizes to find out what works for them. Number 4, message beats medium, creative copy, super important, which blends us into movement marketing, which then blends us into embracing the path to net zero and shouting about it. Those are my 5 points. Thank you very much.
Thank you.